Hello and welcome to the Marketing Dribble podcast with myself, Rob Boyle, and my co-host, Johnny Kenyon. Hi Johnny, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks Rob, how are you?
Well, thank you, it's been minus 7.5 here and we've had some snow and lots of ice. How's it been on your side of the Pennines?
Yeah, loads of snow as well, really cold. But speaking of which, let's not leave our guest out in the cold. No time for your small talk.
I like it.
So yeah, people listening, on the show today we've got John Hawker, who's come to talk about how to attract your dream job through LinkedIn. So John, welcome to the show. Nice to have you on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I'm looking at bright blue sunshine and no snow at the moment down in sunny Essex. So yeah, it's balmy.
I was thinking about
balmy.
Getting out later.
For goodness sake.
We've got quite a bit.
Yeah. Oof, gosh. Put the fan on.
But yeah, so I'll do a little basic intro, which I scraped off the internet, and then I'll hand it over to you to pad out. That's kind of our little format. So here we go. John is a recruiter, a maker of matches, a hunter of heads, and the host of the Jobs Worth podcast, which I actually think is pretty good. I think that pretty much covers all bases, but if you want to just expand on that, tell us, I guess, a little bit more about you before we get stuck in.
Yeah, that's fine. I think in a nutshell, you've covered everything there, but I am a recruiter. I've been recruiting in the technology space primarily for the last 12 years now. For the last 5, I've been running my own agency, which is Global Tech Collective. And aside from that, what I also do is help people that, as you say, want to land their dream job using the power of LinkedIn. So a lot of that is consultancy work and just basically trying to convince people that being more active on LinkedIn is one of the best ways to land the job that you want. And I also do a lot of consulting work with businesses that want to develop or build from scratch an employee value proposition. So all about how you attract people and then hopefully how you keep them in your organisation. That's probably a good summary.
Yeah, really good. And it leads us perfectly into the first question, actually. A bit of background on this. So, God, I've been in marketing like 10, 12 years now. I need to actually do the maths on it. When one of my second roles I ever applied for, they were like, what's your LinkedIn? I was like, I don't have one. And then the agency basically fobbed me off, right? So how important do you think LinkedIn is when you're looking for a new role? How important is it to have one and optimize it?
Yeah, I mean, I will caveat this statement with the fact that it does depend on the industry that you're in. But I think even, maybe 5-6 years ago, you would have said, if you're working in construction, you're more than likely not going to have a LinkedIn profile. But even in the construction industry, which is notorious for people not being online much, there are people now having LinkedIn profiles. So I would say it is one of the most pivotal tools that you can use to land yourself a job. If you are not on LinkedIn, you're doing yourself a disservice if you really want to give yourself all the options available to you. I'd say it as strongly as that.
Well, there you go.
Gosh. So you're basically saying then that, and I've done this myself, you go to look, you get CVs now, and you look at the LinkedIn profile, you just don't go off CVs anymore. So how important, though, is LinkedIn to recruiters? How does that kind of...
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I would say if you're a recruiter trying to hire people without using LinkedIn, you're basically working with both arms tied behind your back. I think LinkedIn, last count, was up to over 1 billion members now. Wow. So we're talking 12.5% or over 12.5% of the global population have a LinkedIn profile. You could argue, and I don't have the statistics in front of me, about how many people are actually active on the platform, but that's 1 billion profiles on LinkedIn. So if you're working in recruitment and don't have a LinkedIn license, because what most people that use LinkedIn from a job seeking perspective will have is either the free version of LinkedIn or LinkedIn Premium. LinkedIn is really set up so recruiters have to pay quite a substantial amount to use the search functionality to find people on LinkedIn. So I would say it's as important a tool for recruiters, more important I'd say than it is for job seekers.
So obviously you've been in the recruitment a while then. So how much do you think LinkedIn has actually changed the kind of recruitment landscape? From what you've said there, it sounds like quite a lot.
Yeah,
it's completely changed the way that you work.
Yeah, I mean, so LinkedIn launched in 2003. So it's been a pivotal tool for recruitment as long as I've been in recruitment. So I could never imagine, I've never lived through an experience or one day as a recruiter without jumping on LinkedIn. Is one of the first things I do.
Yeah.
In my first agency, if you can imagine this, I used to work with a director that started in recruitment when there were just reams and reams of CVs in drawers that you would pull out, and you'd go to the back of the office, you'd flick through to actually find a paper version of a CV that someone sent through in the post, and then you try and find that contact number and call them. So if you can imagine that, I think from a speed perspective, from a connectivity perspective, it's changed drastically. But also what LinkedIn has allowed people to do is add another dimension to how they can sell themselves. And that's why I always talk about the importance of building that personal brand. So I guess that's really the main way. It gives you an opportunity to market yourself.
Firstly, Rob, would love that way of working. Have you printed off today's questions, Rob? Have you got them on paper in front of you?
Yeah, well, I have, yeah.
He loves printing stuff off. Yeah,
I do, and I think it's down to maybe my age or something, but I'm looking at screens all the time. Sometimes I just like to print something off and I can write little notes on it, yeah.
Yeah, but no, interesting
Rob,
you mentioned... Oh.
I will say in your defence, I have got a notebook and I have written notes down. There's a novelty about doing some things a bit more analogue, so I will defend you.
And it also,
I like
the studies say if you write things down, you remember them better, and you know. So that's why I'm trying to remember anything.
But no, that's good. And you mentioned obviously like it gives people different dimensions to promote themselves different ways, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So we've just established, I think, that LinkedIn is very important to recruiters, and obviously if you're looking to attract your dream job as well. So what are some of the basics people should have? What's like the bare minimum that people should be setting up on their LinkedIn? Let's say someone from construction's listening and maybe they're like, I'll try this LinkedIn business.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think LinkedIn, from a user perspective, make it incredibly easy and simple to get the basics in place. So things like your profile picture is one of them. So there's sort of well documented evidence that if you go on LinkedIn, set up a profile but don't have a picture, people are less likely to trust that A, you're a real person, and B, land on your profile in the first place. So profile picture is one of them. One that I think is often overlooked is the cover image on LinkedIn. What you've essentially got behind your profile picture is this huge area of real estate where you can advertise what it is you're doing. So again, when we're talking about building personal brand, it's getting people to at least realise there's a benefit of having a cover image there. Because if you imagine, you'll know yourself from working in marketing, that's a huge piece of real estate where you could try and put across what it is you're trying to do for your clients and the problems you're trying to solve that a lot of people don't use. So they're the two main pieces that I tend to say for people to look at first, and then start building your profile up from there. Things like your headline section. A lot of headlines are very dry, they're quite direct, again, one-dimensional, injecting sometimes a bit of personality in that. Looking at it from an SEO perspective and keywords that are going to make you more searchable and findable by recruiters and hiring managers, I think is really important.
I wonder, on when you mentioned that, what came to my mind is, I wonder if, employers who, that's one of these things of, you've got your LinkedIn profile and it's yours, it's like but I always think it's a little bit associated with the employer looking at it and saying, well, you're our business and that title I don't like because it doesn't reference our business properly. So, I mean, I'm going off a little bit of a tangent here, but
I think it's right. No, I think it's all connected, and again, it's one of the biggest concerns anyone has. If they want to start, my advice to most people is consistency on LinkedIn is key, because the first thing that flags to an employer, if all of a sudden you've been dormant on LinkedIn for God knows how long, and then you start updating your profile picture, and then your cover image goes on, and then you start posting content, people then start to think, well, obviously you're going to try and bugger off anytime soon. So for me, consistency provides a degree of cover. Your company do not own your LinkedIn profile, so you can really put whatever the hell you want on there, and you can put yourself across in the way that is fit for you. It depends how awkward you want to make the relationships.
I suppose it is.
You want to work with. But you can do it in a way.
And also... Just on that basic one where you talked about having your profile picture, I know a lot. In your network, you can show your picture to everyone. If you're looking for a job, I'm guessing you want to have everyone seeing it.
I think that's again something that goes under the radar sometimes. People will be wondering, why am I not getting any views on my LinkedIn profile? Well, actually, half the time it's because your security settings aren't making you visible to everyone. And that might be because you've not touched LinkedIn in the first 5 years that you had your profile. So half of it's visibility. You want to make... You're on LinkedIn for one reason, which is to be seen. It should be an opportunity magnet or at least a conversation starter. So you really want to be seen by everyone.
I laugh because I have to ask Johnny how to do it.
People couldn't tag him in post. I had to sort it out for him. No, anyway, a bit of a contentious question now, actually. What if you look like Rob, right, and you have a profile picture? Could that put potential employers off, do you think? Is that,
This isn't a visual medium, your podcast, is it? Is it only?
Actually, this is going to be on YouTube, so people can see. I might just blur his face up.
Wow! So what you're saying? I should put like Brad Pitt as my picture, and then I get to interview, and it's
maybe so. Yeah.
I think your profile picture. I think it just has to be that people think it's one of the most basic things that you can do in your LinkedIn profile, but just there's so many people that get it wrong. And I think there's some real clear guidelines to follow, but it shouldn't be that hard.
I was going to just jumping into that. You see some that are very professional, of course, like mine. But then you see some that they're in a nightclub or something, and the drinks just missed off, and they're like people are back. I'm guessing that's not really good for your business profile, or does it give a personality to? What do you think about that?
So it's personal, and again, it's all subjective. Again, horses for courses. Some people might look at a profile like that and think, "Oh, do you know what? That's exactly the type of person we're looking for." That gives a reflection of someone's personality. So I try not to prescribe anything too formal for people. You need to put it across in a way that's authentic for you, but as a general rule, your profile picture should be you. It should be head and shoulders. It should be staring at the camera with your best attempt at a smile, and that's kind of like the most vanilla advice I can give.
But just to push you on that one,
goodness, so many bonus questions. Sorry, John, you're getting ambushed.
I know. I'm just really curious from a recruiter's point of view, and you got a job, and they've told you the type of person you want. Would you look at an image and go, "Yeah, they're not going to be a good fit," or would you never do that?
I'll be honest and get off the fence on this. I could give you the political answer, but there's bias. Everyone has bias. You will always look at and make a judgment on someone's face, the expression they're pulling, who they're in the picture with. It is human nature. So I'm not going to say I'm immune from that at all, which is why it's important for the picture that you do put on your profile, just to make it as authentic as you possibly can. But we'd all be lying, I think, if we didn't say there's an element of bias from using platforms like LinkedIn at anything where you're showing someone's face.
Of course. And I think, obviously, going back to your nightclub thing, Rob, they may attract a draw. If someone looks at that and goes, "Oh, I love this," then they've landed a job that they'll be a good culture fit in. So it's not necessarily, I guess, a bad thing then, is it? As you've said there, John, just be authentic, I guess.
I think that's it. I think as a general rule for a professional business networking site, which I think the lines have really started to blur on LinkedIn over the last few years, there's a lot more personality than there's ever been on LinkedIn. It's still got a stigma for people that don't use the platform as a very stuffy business networking site, which it doesn't have to be. But yeah, you're right. Be authentic, and your profile in itself will filter out the people that you want to contact you and put off the ones that you don't, and that's the whole point of it.
Okay, bro. Right, back on track, Rob. What's the next real question?
So the next real question, sorry, John.
I like the random ones. It's fine.
We always go off piece. The next question is: so you got your basic one. So how do you level it up? What's the next thing? What should you wanting to have this super LinkedIn profile?
I think there's lots of little hidden things that you can do on LinkedIn, or features that people won't be switching on because they wonder if is that even relevant to me. But I think there's two things I want to focus on with that answer, which is, one is your featured section. So I did have a quick look on your profile, Johnny, before this. Rob, I started to, and then I had to log in. But your featured section on your LinkedIn profile isn't switched on. So your featured section, it's just another space on your profile to showcase what it is you do. And if you're working in a bit more of a visual medium, that's really helpful. It can also be a good place to put up well-performing posts, announcements about what it is you're doing. For job seekers specifically, I always say just put the most up-to-date version of your CV in there, and a one-pager about the services you offer. So your featured section is one of them. And then I think the other thing that really levels up LinkedIn is how you use it, how you post content. Because you can build the most optimized LinkedIn profile out there, but it's essentially like releasing an iPhone and never advertising it. You've got the iPhone, but you've never told anyone that it's there. Your content is going to be the thing that starts attracting people and directing people to actually look at what you've built. So it's how you use it, what content you're putting out there.
And I know it's interesting you say that, and I think we all suffer from this imposter syndrome when you're, there's other experts out there, and if I talk about this, then there's going to be people that... But you forget there's people that don't know as much, and it's that... Is it just getting started, I think? I think myself and Johnny I know you're probably ahead of me, Johnny, on this, but just need to kind of just start posting things and just get going on it. And the more you do it, I imagine the easier, the more confident you get with it.
I think so. I started posting video content probably about a couple of years before I started my own agency. And at the time, it was so stuffy. It was usually scripted. It's because I felt that maybe there was a persona that I needed to be putting out there. And then the minute I started my own agency, the shackles were off, and I just thought, well, if people don't like what I'm saying, or people don't like the style I'm saying it in, that's perfect, because it'll alienate the people that I don't want to work with, and they don't want to work with me. So it sounds like such a cliche bit of advice, doesn't it, sometimes, to say just get started, but it really is that. Rip the plaster off. Yeah. Throw yourself in, immerse yourself, and then you do start to get a lot more comfortable with it, for sure.
I think it's one of mine and Rob's New Year's resolutions. And actually, we were looking at your LinkedIn profile, and you have a really good featured section, so people should go check that out after. And you've actually just done like an image that links straight to your podcast, which I thought was pretty cool. So that's definitely something that we could do. And I think once we've posted a bit more, we'll have some good stuff to put in that featured section, hopefully. But for people listening there who are not watching the video, I can't edit this out because you did it like over John. Rob just leant over and punched a vase over or something, so apologies for that.
I did it on purpose. I'm trying to get this is light in my face. I'm trying to...
Really sorry about that, audio listeners. But here we go. Right, so in your... You've got a little playbook. You've got a playbook called the Invisible to Irresistible. And you talk about keyword optimizations. This is where you might start to interest some of our marketing listeners here. Where should people be implementing that?
So there are a few main sections of your LinkedIn profile where you need to be focused on your keywords, which is essentially where recruiters will be using the functionality on LinkedIn or on Google more generally to try and find you. So your job title, as you might expect, is one of them. Try and make sure that the job title you're using is kind of like the industry standard for the skill set you have. There are a lot of companies that give you weird and wonderful versions of a particular skill set, but you want to be using the one that is the most recognisable in your industry. I can't think of many off the top of my head, but I know... I use recruitment as an example. You could be a talent acquisition specialist, but more often than not, if a recruiter is searching for a recruiter, they're putting recruiter or recruitment consultant. Mm-hmm. So that's a kind of an example there. Your headline, which again, it's kind of, because this is such a... this is all audio. It's quite difficult because I could usually point at a LinkedIn profile when we're discussing it.
It'll be on YouTube, so look, if you're listening and you want to see some hand actions and Rob punch a vase, get over on YouTube.
Punching a vase, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. It's probably more interesting than me pointing at LinkedIn profiles. So the headline section is another place that you need to be putting keywords. So again, trying to make that, that's a searchable field. Your about section, and that's where you can go hell for leather and putting a lot of information on your LinkedIn profile. A lot of people will say, you need to try and keep that quite concise. It's an expandable field. So what you can do is actually try and really use that and jam that pack full of keywords that are going to make you more accessible. And then your experience. A lot of people set up their LinkedIn profile and don't write enough in their experience fields, and they don't make it relevant to the skill set they have. So they might put one or two sentences that are ripped straight off their CV, but again, you should be seeing that as an SEO goldmine, really try and pack that full of keywords that are going to be coming up on recruiters' radars when they're searching for your skill set.
I love that we've got SEO into this now as well, and I know it's got some listeners excited. I saw Rob furiously scribbling some notes there as well.
I know, because when you said that, John, I was thinking, I've written one out, but I've never thought about being keyword optimized. So You're saying that recruiters, if they put certain keywords in, if they're in certain parts of your LinkedIn, it'll pop your
I guess you're using automated tools and stuff, and that's kind of what's picking up, right?
So LinkedIn Recruiter, which is what any recruiter worth their salt will have access to, and like I said, it's a high sort of a premium feature of LinkedIn, and I think that's how they make a lot of their money. Everything that we use, the functionality in the background, is to try and draw out keywords that are going to be on people like yours, Johnny, or your Rob's profile, if we're looking for people in marketing as an example. So I for a lot of the LinkedIn consulting sessions I do, one of the sort of, let's say, the low-hanging fruit for most people is for me to say, right, you're saying this is your skill set. It might be mentioned in your job title, but nowhere in your experience have you said that job title again. So a little bit of repetition sometimes, without sounding like a robot written in your profile, is key.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's really interesting, and I think the follow-on from that, which is interesting to me, is and the next question is, should you be more active then when you're looking for a job? Should you be more active in terms of posting and what you're doing on, and just a sub to that question, if you are posting things, should they be around the subject of the job you're looking for? Does that not matter?
I guess. Okay. Just before you get stuck in, John, let's leave it with, like, the question after is basically like, what kind of stuff would be attractive to you, and is anything like a massive no-no? And I appreciate this depends entirely on the role and the industry and stuff like that. So just to give you a huge question, so.
Did you get that question?
Yeah. Just put my feet up for a minute.
I'll try and break it down as best I can. So should you be posting content on LinkedIn? Should you be active? I think regardless of whether you're looking for a job or not, the answer is yes. You should be active. You could argue that you're going to be slightly more active when you're actively looking for a role, but even if you are someone that's very comfortable in the job you're in, reflecting your skill set, coming across as a credible voice in the skill that you have or the industry that you're working in, isn't a bad thing. Because what we all really want is for the next job to find us. We don't want to be searching for a job. We want people reaching out to us to say, come and work for us. Or, I've seen this article that you posted the other day. It's so good. We've got this opportunity. Will you speak to us about it? So that's the way. A lot of people will think of it as having to be this proactive, I'm searching for a job. Well, actually, if you use LinkedIn the right way, you will never say I'm searching for a job. Half the time you'll be batting recruiters away. So that's kind of more the slant I take on it.
Is that part of the headhunting side? So, as an example, like Johnny starts writing about what he's good at, and people see that he's saying, and they pick him up, and then they contact him for a role that they've found, even though he's not shown any interest in it. That's basically what you're saying on that. Yeah,
exactly that. Because we, in recruitment, I guess you divide anyone. All users on LinkedIn are divided between passive job seekers or active job seekers. Anyone who's not actively applying for jobs themselves and might be completely happy in a role is a passive job seeker, because however comfortable you are in a role, if someone puts an opportunity on the table, I've had this myself, I can be very happy doing the job that I'm doing, but if someone comes to you and there's a role that ticks every box, it's very hard not to have your head turned or at least entertain a conversation about it, because the whole point is there's nothing to lose. So really, by keeping that consistency and keeping active on LinkedIn, the whole point is to try and magnetise conversations, and it acts as a magnet for opportunities, as opposed to going, I need a job. I was about to swear then, Rob. I need a job. Let's put our foot to the floor.
Get him off, boot him.
Now I'm in air quotes desperate. I need to start looking for a job. You kind of don't want to be in that position to the best of your ability.
And it works both ways. It's not just recruiters, because there's a woman I follow on LinkedIn. She works at a marketing agency, and I really like the stuff she posts. And I think if I ever started hiring for a new role, I'd just try and poach her, because she's put herself across so well. I won't mention any names, but it works both ways. And I've just seen that content and gone, this is a really good marketing person. I'd love to have them on my team. So, really good point there, John.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think all the connections you build, every bit of content you engage with, you're just getting eyes on your stuff from someone else, and you never know where those opportunities could lead or those connections could come through. So it's worthwhile doing.
I think we've kind of answered the next question, which is kind of around like personal branding and kind of, it's really growing in popularity, and like, do businesses kind of consider that? But you've sort of answered it across the.
But I suppose on the personal branding one though, it's I suppose, are you talking more that way about yourself? It's an interesting one with posts, isn't it? It's you're posting
to your picture, I guess, Rob, because you were saying if you had a picture in a nightclub, for instance, I guess if your personal brand wasn't, it was all you out, I don't know, doing biking or something, and they didn't like biking. I don't know. We're clutching at straws here, but I think, John, you've answered it.
You've answered it, but I think I suppose it's, I'm out for a walk today with the dog and it's a really sunny day and how amazing. As against to, look what Google have brought in for this, the new PPC, think it's going to really help increase revenue, and it's done this. Can you have both of them? Can you talk that way and then go, or are you trying to...
Yeah. I'd be a hypocrite if I said no, because I sometimes sort of start to blur the lines between personal stuff and purely professional things on LinkedIn. I think again, it's subjective. So some people, because I can't say, I personally, so I will again get off the fence and just be very bold here and say personally, I am put off people that post pictures of their dogs, which is like low-hanging fruit, absolute magnet for likes, vanity metrics on LinkedIn. It doesn't mean I wouldn't work with them. It's just I scroll straight past that stuff, whereas they get so much engagement. People that maybe overshare about their family, I don't do it, but that's my own thing. Other people like to see that, and they get a sense of that person and what's happening behind the scenes. That's all fine. Even in my personal posts, I try my best to tie it back, even tenuously, into a post about business. But it really is subjective, so I don't think there's any hard and fast rules. What I would definitely say don't do is, if you're down the pub and you're getting pissed with your mates, probably best not to send a video from there.
Johnny's rumbled.
Yeah, rumbled. Okay, yeah, cool. I think that answers it. We'll put that one to bed. So a couple more, and then we'll let you get back to it. So, are there any people, I guess, on LinkedIn that people can use as a benchmark? Of course, yourself. Definitely go check out John's profile after this. Is there anyone else that's like a standout that people can look at?
Again, I think it's really dependent on your personal taste, and some people, and this is the great thing about personal brand. Some people will look at my profile and they'll think, God, I could never work with that guy, and it's great because I want my profile to act exactly that way, because I know the people that do approach me have had to go through a video that I've been in or a stupid post that I've put up and think, and if they still want to have a conversation, I've started to filter out my ideal client base as opposed to people that are just going to waste my time and I might waste theirs. So it is subjective. I think there are two people that give some really good actionable advice on how to use LinkedIn. One of them is a chap called Jasmine Alec, and he's very much about how you use LinkedIn from an engagement perspective. So if we're talking about someone that's built this profile, they now want to start being more active, he's got some great actionable advice about commenting on other people's posts. So if you're not comfortable posting original content, he's got some great actionable tips on how to start engaging with other people's posts to get the most traction and the most eyes on your profile. So that's Jasmine Alec. And then if you like sort of data-driven insight and stats, and maybe trying to get clued up on the LinkedIn algorithm, because that is a thing that sometimes you have to play with, and it changes like the wind. There's a chap called Richard van der Blom, and he posts a lot of, again, really interesting LinkedIn insights. They're always backed by data and statistics and research that teams of tens of people are doing at any one time. So they're the two people that I would follow, and I always suggest anyone that wants to just start getting a bit more clued up on LinkedIn start to follow.
Well, that's definitely me. I love these recommendations, certainly from people like yourself, some experts. So I shall definitely be going checking those people out after.
Yeah,
cool.
And we've had loads of tips so far. If you want more tips or more in depth on any of those tips, you can go follow John on LinkedIn, download his playbook, and read those. But just before we let you go, it's the part of the show where Rob gets to ask you the little golden nugget tip. You got your drumsticks, Rob?
Oh, I'll just get them. Hang on.
Oh, he's lost them. But yeah, we'll let you give us all your details at the end and where to find you, John. So stay tuned for that. You can go get that playbook. But for now, Rob.
So for now, the one thing I always want from a podcast is a golden nugget. So I'll just drum myself in. Hang on.
Okay.
I haven't done this for a bit.
Sorry about this. It's all right. Not your best one. I think you've rusty after Christmas.
Is this the first? Is that was the first drum roll back after Christmas as well for the golden nugget?
It was actually, yeah.
Oh,
What would you rate him out of 10, John? We're going to start that feature.
10, strong 10, strong 10. Rob,
Nice.
Sorry.
When he used to use his fingers and he would get 3s and 4s, so I bought him those drumsticks as a Christmas present. So.
He did, and they arrived just before, in the middle. Was it in the middle of an episode or just before it?
Yeah. You had to go answer the door in the middle of an episode to get him.
Yeah. No, well, the timing was amazing. Anyway, moving on to the actual golden nugget question. So, what's the one tip for someone who's looking for their dream job on LinkedIn?
I'm going to try and keep it as concise as humanly possible,
like
and just say be authentic, but also keep it relevant. And that's you. That's more so about the content that you're posting. So it should be an authentic representation of you, but it should also be relevant to the field that you're operating in. It's going to show you as a more credible option than other people that are just completely mute on LinkedIn. But you have to put some authenticity and show that you're a human, because that gives an insight into what you're going to be like beyond just your skill set. So, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it does.
Happy with that nugget, Rob?
I am, and it applies to myself. And we spoke about this, Johnny, didn't we? Networking more this year and getting more active.
Putting more stuff out there, which
because
we will be
we
doing.
enjoy doing it, and I think it's just getting that habit of doing it and just getting yourself out there and
Cool.
See what
follow
happens.
Rob on LinkedIn, follow me, follow Martin Dribble podcast. But John, just before you go, where can people find you online? Where can they interact with you? Where can they get even more of your insights?
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. It's so follow me on LinkedIn. So it's just John Hawker, nice and simple. You can, if you want to learn more about my recruitment services, the website is globaltechcollective.com. And I also have a podcast, if that's okay to promote on your podcast.
Yeah,
I think you mentioned it earlier. So my podcast is called Jobsworth, and that's available wherever you find your podcasts. And it's all about just trying to inspire and maybe enlighten people to the weird and wonderful ways people are choosing to work post-pandemic. And then there's the playbook as well. So if it's all right, maybe I'll send a link for people to be able to download the LinkedIn playbook.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes,
Yeah, but that's pretty. I think that's covered all the bases. Yeah.
Cool, perfect.
Yeah,
well,
amazing.
Thank you again so much for coming on the show. Definitely got some insights. So I'm going to go work on my featured section. That's the next thing I'm going to do.
Yeah, he's going to be. He's going to be looking at yours, and oh my gosh,
I'm posting a bit more regularly, and trying to be authentic. Loads of really good tips in there. I can't wait to listen back when I'm editing it. So thanks again for coming on. And we'll post that link for everyone listening at home. Make sure you give us a 5-star rating as well, please, and go follow John. And thanks again for listening. See you on the next one.
Bye.